Hey guys, so this is new for me. This is Chaz at Exotic Specialty Parts. I wanted to make a video guide for you on the installation of one of my parts. This will be my first video. If it's something you like or if there's some other type of information you'd like to hear, please comment below and let me know. I have several other products and I plan to do installation videos like this for the others as I am able to. I need to come across a lot of the parts themselves that I make the repair parts for in a broken state to make the how-to video. A lot of these parts I made in a prototype phase on the very first occasion and installed those prototype parts on customer cars at my day job in order for them to go into use. After I knew they worked and they were tested true and everything was good, I set up the production parts for the website, and that's what you'll go purchase today at the website. However, that's just an explanation of why the videos don't currently exist. So I'm going to take this opportunity for this part because I have a broken part available to make the video and produce a how-to video for you. So for today, we're going to be talking about the Ferrari California T. Now the symptom that will occur from this broken part often ends up, it can happen from a parked state or in the middle of driving one day. You'll lose the ability to shift up or shift down. Now, it is more often on the upshift paddle as it is used even in vehicles operated primarily in automatic mode, because that is often how you'll engage first gear. So it gets used a lot more, often means it'll break in that situation first. So the part we're going to talk about is the paddle shift assembly. Now, you can see here I've got the paddle shift assembly out of the car. This is actually a broken one. We're going to repair it today. Now, you do not need to take this out of the car to do this repair, but I have the part in my hand and I have my workbench, so I was able to film a video to kind of closely explain the installation process of these parts and how the repair takes care of the problem. So just imagine most of this repair process being done inside the car. Now, a little side note for that. If you're doing it in the car, the broken parts are on the bottom of this assembly here, which means as you're taking things apart, they want to fall. You're in your car, the worst case it'll fall in the seat or fall into the floorboard, but there are some very small parts here and some hard to see parts, so you want to be cautious about that. It's a Ferrari anyway, so it's a good idea to lay a light colored towel or something like that down, especially if you're in your garage, so that if the parts do fall, you'll be able to see them a little bit better. Alright, so this is the paddle shift assembly. It's a upshift right here, and on this occasion I actually have already repaired this part. I took it back apart, put it back into its broken state so that I can make this video. And in that process, I actually took the broken part that was originally on the upshift and I installed it on the downshift side. No particular reason, I just happened to put it together that way today, but the repair process is the exact same. So what you'll notice is with the upshift, you're driving and you pull on the upshift paddle, you get a pretty firm click. However, on the downshift side, it still clicks. There's a little rattle there that may be present, but it doesn't feel the same. It's very hard to show in a video, but I have a nice firm click from this side, and on this side it just kind of bumps over. It doesn't really click clearly. And then as well, if this was the upshift paddle, you wouldn't be able to put the car in gear. Now a lot of times with this failure, you'll constantly attempt to select the gear and you get frustrated with the car, and you'll get an error on the dash that says, if attempting to shift to first gear, use PS, the power start button. And there's a reason for that I'll explain later on as we pull this apart. So anyway, this is the assembly that it repairs. It's Ferrari factory part number 315119. So at the time of this video, it's November of 2022. All California Ts, I believe, do use this unit, which means this part should apply to all California Ts. Now, I would of course review in the future if this unit gets used in another vehicle, it would of course apply to that. But at this point in time, this is only used in the California T, not the normal California. So let's get on with it and I'll show you the process. Alright, so here we have the same unit. This is what you just saw a moment ago. I want to go through a few things before we get started on this repair process. This is the unit I'm talking about, however. This is the, let's re-verify, 315119 for Ferrari. Part number's right here. It's probably going to be pretty hard to see in this video, but that's what it is. I'm going to set it to the side for just a moment and go through a few of the other things I've got here. Very, very simple install process. Now, I'm not going to say you don't need many tools. I'm only going to refer to the tools you need to install the parts on this unit. You're still going to require an Allen socket and a few other small things to remove the steering wheel. Now, another thing to keep in mind, if you're doing this at home and you do not have a scan tool such as the Leonardo diagnostic tool, you're going to want to disconnect your battery before you start this process, complete the entire repair, installation, and double, triple check all of your cables and connections, because it will set an airbag light. You're going to have to remove the airbag on the steering wheel in order to remove the steering wheel to get to this part. Now, if you're not 100% confident in that and you're not comfortable working with the airbag, I highly do recommend bringing these parts to an installation shop and showing them this video so that they can do this repair for you. And as always, this is just an example of the installation, so full disclaimer, I don't accept any responsibility for repairs you do to your own vehicle. As you know, this is YouTube, I need to say something along those lines. Now, once you've gotten the steering wheel off and the airbags out of your way, and you can see the face of this, so you'll see the steering shaft coming through the center of this clock spring here, this is what you'll be met with. Now, from this point, the only tools you're actually going to need to do, or to use to do this procedure, will be very, very simple. A Phillips head screwdriver. This is actually just one I keep in my tool, or in my work area here. This isn't even one of my mechanics drivers of any size, but just a small Phillips head screwdriver. And then I recommend a right angle pick. This is used for a few little things around the process, but you'll see shortly. It makes life a lot easier. Now, when you order the repair kit, you're going to get an envelope. Should look just like this. It may change in color, of course. Try to use black, but you'll get this, and when you get it in there, you'll only find a few things in this bubble envelope. First thing you'll have is your receipt for your order, a thank you note, and then you'll get these two things. Now, one exception to this is this package may not arrive if you are ordering internationally. So if you're not within the United States, I may or may not be able to send this. It's been hit or miss because of international shipping. They don't like to have chemicals or what they consider a fluid in the bag. This isn't actually a fluid. I'll go ahead and open it up and show you what it is. So tear this container open, and I just have a little plastic vial here, and inside the vial you'll see that looks like green or grease or anything like that. That's what it is. It's dielectric grease. It's nothing special. So if you do have an international order and you do not receive this, very simple, stop by your local parts store and pick this up. It is dielectric grease. They may also call it bulb grease or electrical grease. Very common supply, nothing special. I include it in this kit just as to make things easier for you. Sorry, I can't think of the word. So you'll get that in the kit, and then aside from that, you'll get another package like this. Looks the same. Now this may vary as well. So as you can see, the parts inside this package are white in color. This is the very first run of these parts. It's what I use as a prototyping phase / first edition parts per se. And I do that primarily to help myself. If I have parts with a problem later on, I'll know whether it was the original parts or a later mass-produced version. So now keep in mind, these are not superior or any different than later parts. So the later parts that will come will likely come in black, just like the originals, like you see here. So white or black, it's the same material, it's just a different color. It doesn't affect its function. This is mostly for reference information to me, should there ever be an issue in the future. So for the installation process, we're going to use what you'll likely get. So I'm going to tear this open, take them out. There's two of them, right here and here. This is the problem. This is what fails on the cars. Now, I'm going to go ahead and zoom the camera in a little bit so you can get a little better idea of what we're working with. There we go. Alright, so this is your part right here. The right angle pick comes to use, so I can actually show you what we got here. So it's a very small part, but it is fairly intricate. I have a lot of time in redrawing these parts, and now I redrew these from scratch, and that's important to note because a lot of parts manufacturers out there, and I'm not calling any names or talking bad about anybody who makes repair parts to be able to save anybody some money or effort and taking care of is a good thing. However, I just want to explain the difference in quality and things like that. So these parts right here, I do not take and 3D scan, and I do have a 3D scanner. It's a little Red Point Mini. I do not just take and 3D scan these parts and then copy and paste into a printer and print these parts out and sell them for an absorbent amount of money. In order for quality control and to keep things up, I actually go through with a good old school set of calipers and redraw all of these parts from scratch. Now the reason I do that is multiple things. Now, and I'll show you shortly, but as an example, here's an early variation black part. Now this is one of my parts, but this is another prototype, and you'll see a big difference right here if I put these side by side. So on the original part, the weak link is this little barrel right here. Let me center that up a little bit better for you. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more. There we go. So right here, this is closer to what the original looked like than mine. So this little barrel right here splits along the bottom. It'll actually break completely off and lose this pivot point, and that's the failure. That's what causes the no shift. So in my variations, I redrew the part from scratch, created the base part identical to what it was, because sometimes those parts don't need to be changed. This is one of the few occasions where I do change the parts. And what I did, the only difference in changing this part compared to the original is the size of this barrel, the thickness of this barrel on the sides. And even with full zoom, this is a very tiny part, so it's hard to show, but the side walls right here are much thicker, and this should prevent any future failures, along with the material type I'm using here. Now, the plastic supplies I use, they call it many different things, but the closest and most widely used description is an ABS-like plastic, but it's not an ABS plastic. It's actually a lot tougher than that. I'm not going to do my hammer test today, but you can smack this with a small workshop hammer, pretty much drop it on it, and it's unlikely to break. If it did, it would chip a corner or something like that, but it wouldn't smash into a million pieces. And I promise you, if that's what you do with the stock part, it will shatter into a million pieces. Anyway, let's continue. So, moving on, bubble envelope's empty, you got everything out of there. We're going to come back to this, and we're going to start our repair. Now, we're going to be working from the bottom side. So installed in the car, it sits like this. This is looking down at the top of the steering column. This is the face of the steering column. You're going to be laying slightly under the dash. You can probably lean in the seat of the car to get to everything we're going to get to. So, you're going to see this across the bottom. It says Vallejo right here. That's who originally manufactured this part. Now, very simple. This is, I'm stretching the video out too much, I believe, already. But so all we're going to do is first we're going to take off these three screws right here. Now, one thing to be cautious of is underneath this paddle right here and right here, there are two springs. Underneath these two pivots right here, there's an additional two springs. And you know what? While we're here, I want to go ahead and explain that as well. So right here, you can immediately see what's broken. So see how this little piece of plastic right here is facing straight into the paddle. It's square, it's solid, it's not moving anywhere. But then you see this one, it's broken free, it's loose. This is your failure. This is the broken part. That's what we're going to replace. Anyway, you'll be able to see that a lot clearer once I remove this bottom plate. Now, the reason I address there are springs here, 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 and here. You just want to be cautious of that. Again, if you're laying under the dash, they may fall free, and you do not want to lose them. You're going to need them. I also keep a small plastic tray like this just to throw the pieces in as I disassemble it. There we go. And I'll actually try and zoom out just a little bit. There we go. I'll leave this tray in view, so if you need a reference to what parts we've removed, you can see. I'm just going to loosen this one a hair. I'm going to take this one out first. That way I can pull this thing off uniformly. A little tricky to do this watching a monitor and working at the same time, but I'll do my best. Promise I have a little bit better dexterity than this when working on an actual car. Alright. 3 screws are out. This one, this one, this one. These are just pins here that protrude through the plate. Those will stay behind. And then these are little stoppers for the paddles. They have little rubber O-rings on them that will cushion the snaps of the paddles so it's pleasant to use. Now I'm going to take, this isn't as intricate as I'm making it look, but I'm going to go ahead and take this just to gently pry things apart and try not to have everything explode. So pulling this away, there we go. You see that paddle immediately released, that paddle released there. This is that part there, nothing crazy. This is aluminum. I'm just going to put it in the tray. Now inside, I'm leaving everything just like it fell because this is likely the situation you'll end up as you work on your unit. So let's zoom back in a little bit here. Okay, so, whoop, see, more things are falling free. That's okay. I'm going to show you how it all works. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little pick here and I'm going to pull this out. Here's our broken part. Right there. Now there's a spring stuck to the bottom of it. It's just barely stuck on there. I'll pry that out. I'll pop that right off right there. And then here's our broken part. Wish I had tweezers so I could handle this a little better for you, but if you see the inside, let's try that. Yeah, there we go. It focuses a lot better. So if you see right here, that barrel is split wide open. That piece of plastic is completely gone, so that pin that goes through here just doesn't do anything anymore. So here's our broken part. We're taking it out. Now in the process of this, we're going to replace this one as well, so they're upgraded and you don't have to worry about this problem in the future. Now a little further in here is a slightly larger spring. It's a weird angle to work at. On your car, it probably would have fallen on the floor, but larger spring, we're going to throw it in our parts bin as well. Now we're going to go to the other side. Oh, sorry, I forgot one thing. Right here is the metal pin that retains this broken part. We're going to pop it out by going to the top of it and pushing it out from the bottom. So as it slides in, it has a stopping point on this side. It will slide in and stop right here, and then the metal panel that we took off the beginning retains it. So it shouldn't be hard to get out. It may be a little stuck, but you can take your pick and just pop it out. Now you also may want to look down inside this open area here below where the switch was, because if it was broken, your broken piece may be in there. You might want to feel around and see if you can pick that part out, just so it doesn't cause interference with your new parts later on. Now let's go to our other side. This one's not broken, so it's fully installed. We're just going to go straight behind that pin again. We're going to push down on it. It slides out. A little tricky to do off of a monitor, sorry. And there's the pin. Drop it out, pull my pick back out. There we go. And then we'll take this entire thing assembly out with the spring. As you can see, again I'll show you here, this one is not broken. It's solid on the side. And then another thing important to note, these parts, left or right, are the exact same part. It is configured to work. Ooh, come on, focus. There we go. It is configured to work on either side. So there is no left, there is no right. They're the same part. Alright, that's it. It's completely torn down. We're ready to install our new parts. Now for the video, like I said, we're going to use these new ones, the white ones. These are thicker walled on the side, which will take care of that issue. Now you've got a few options on how you do this. I'm going to show you the way I've done it. You can do this as an assembly, so you can take the smaller, shorter spring, and you can preload it onto the part if you like. So we're going to use the new parts, as you can see here. Like I said, a lot thicker on these side walls. Right there. Alright, so you got two options. I'm going to show you the way I do it. You can pre-install the shorter spring here, and you can place it onto the little stud on the part here. I'm sorry, it's very tricky to get this to focus correctly. So you can pre-install it like that onto the part, or you can leave it out, install the part, and then fish the spring in there. I'm actually going to go ahead and show you how to do it with the spring installed. You're fighting against the spring as you do the installation, but it's already there and you don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to take this, and then for the sake of this video, I'm going to grab a pair of pliers to hold the pin. I don't want my fingers to block everything so you can't see. So you don't need pliers, you can do this by hand. I'm just doing this so that you can see a little better. So spring, new part right here, and it's going to set down right into this assembly. Guide the part into the crevice. There we go. And then line you're going to have to compress the spring if you're using the spring, and line the hole up. Then just slide the pin in there. Should slide right in, no problem. There we go. And then press the pin all the way in. That's it. So the new part is installed. This will come down. I'm just going to do a quick test fit. Now for initial installation, you're going to want to take that new part right there and depress it on this side, pull it back. Okay, you see how that slips by? And that'll let this get trapped under there. Now this is where your grease will come into play. So I'm going to open up my grease file here. Just take a little glob of it with my hand. And I'm going to lubricate these parts because these do bind into each other in normal operation. So I just want a little bit of lube in there. I'll actually pop that right back out, get some underneath. Don't need a ton. I actually probably put too much in this example here, but you can see that lubricates. And there will be residue from the grease that was there in the past. But there we go. And this is dielectric grease, so obviously it's not going to harm the circuit board or anything else. It won't harm anything in this area. So I have to grab a paper towel. Alright, so that part is installed. There's one other thing that's going to go back in, and that is the larger spring. Now you can see I just kind of pick it up with my pick here. Again, let me get it to focus. This is the large spring. The large spring is a helper for the paddle. Now, in order to get it in there, I got to pop this back up like this. It's going to slide into this cavity here, and it will go just below this larger hole here. And you'll see a recess in the plastic for the seat. So I just press it in, get it held in there. I'm going to open this back up, push down on it. There we go. And if you're very gentle with it, it may stay. Mine didn't. But I'm going to leave it like that for now. I'm going to go and install the parts on the other side, and then I'll put the paddles in and I'll show you how to assemble it. It's a little tricky. Alright, so once again, I'm actually going to pre-lubricate the new part. I'm just going to put a little grease on this top portion of it where the friction occurs. Put it down in there. Cover everything up. That's it. I'm going to preload my small spring onto the bottom. Just like that. It'll stay. Alright, I'm going to grab my pin. Again, I'll use pliers so that you can see in the video. Put it in where it goes. There we go. Depress it. Install the pin. Press it all the way in. Might take a little bit of a press to get it through the back seat, but not hard. There we go. And then one little test fit here. Bring it back. Put the paddle there. Bring this one back. Put the paddle there. Oh, sorry, I forgot I have my spring in here. Alright, so now the fun part. Once these parts are in, they've been test fit, you're going to have to get these large springs on and get the rear cover plate back on. And this is going to take a little bit of handling. I'll try my best to keep the visibility clear here, but to be honest with you, it's going to be a little tricky. So again, just like I showed you earlier, I'm going to take the spring. All I do is I take my right angle pick and I just stick it in between two parts of the spring, and it kind of holds it for me. Works really well for doing this. I'm going to fit it into here. I'm going to press it back down. I'm going to flip my paddle out of the way. There we go. You could take a clip or something like that and hold this if you had one around. I don't have one nearby right now, so I'm just going to hold it with this hand, move to the other side, pop that back out. Again, take my spring, hold it just like this, slide it into the paddle, set it down where it goes. I'm going to use my other finger to hold that down, pop this out, push this down, close that. There we go. So I've got both paddles installed. I'm just holding these paddles below these levers, and then I'm going to take the cover plate back on, or back up, and if you see the bottom of it, it's got two little teeth right here. Oops. It's a little trickier than I thought, trying to keep visibility here. So the teeth go down on the bottom. You'll be able to read Vallejo facing up like this. Alright, so I'm just going to push that down far enough. There are these two pins that we referred to at the beginning on this side and another on this side. You want to make sure those are guided in. Once you have this plate down, you can just hold the plate like this, and then the paddles will stay. The plate's retaining the paddles. So I'm going to start with this center screw just to get everything held into place, and I can kind of give you a little bit better visibility. Take this one, thread this in. I'm not getting it super tight, just snug. It is going into plastic. Take my other screw, put it on this side, thread it in. And last but not least, this screw right here. Alright, snug it up all the way, snug it up all the way, snug it up all the way. Alright, all that's left in our bin are our two original parts that we've removed. Those will go in the trash. I'm going to put the cap back on my grease. I'm pretty generous. I give you a lot of grease. You don't need, as you can tell, 90% of it, but save it for your next time you do spark plugs. Alright, so everything is assembled. Let me zoom this back out. There we go. Alright, here's the assembly. I'm going to grab my parts bin, flip it upside down so I can give you a little better presentation here. There we go. So here's the completed assembly. Now, the testing part. I'm going to hold this pretty firm as if it was mounted in the car. Nice firm clicks. You can see the little part pivoting back and forth. I'm glad I use the white ones here because it gives you a better visibility of what's actually happening here. That takes care of that. Same click on that side. It is as simple as that, my friends. New parts are installed. Let's also do a neutral depress, so both paddles at once. There you go. And if you wanted to, you could feel free to add a little bit more lube or anything like that at this time. You really can't put too much of this dielectric grease. If you put a ton of it, there's a chance under high heat conditions it could drip out, but I would definitely rather these be lubricated than dry. If you install them without lubrication at all, there's a good chance of premature failure because of just wear and tear. That is it, my friends. The website is exoticspecialtyparts.com. Pretty much any of these parts that you see, I do my absolute best to keep in stock. I've noticed threads will pop up on places like Ferrari chat, and it will cause a large purchase to come through all at once. Several people will order at the same time. Even if that occurs and I run out of stock, I typically can get more stock turned out within 24 hours. So if this is a part you need, I'll really quickly, I'll move this out of the way. I'll show you a few other things that I have available. Okay, so just showed you the California repair parts. A few other things that I have available, and this isn't everything, but this is what I happen to have laying here. By far the most popular item is right here. These are my Ferrari 360 headlight adjusters. This is actually what started Exotic Specialty Parts. I'll do a video guide on these when I can. I actually don't see these headlights as often as I used to right now. And when I do, they're installed in the car, which makes it a little bit trickier to film a video like this. But these are the adjusters on Ferrari 360s to tip the headlights up and down. The factory parts disintegrate, they turn into nothing, and there is zero option as far as repair parts available from Ferrari, so I decided to recreate these. I probably literally have close to 100 hours in developing these parts. It was surprisingly one of the most difficult parts I've done, as well as these are the nuts that go on the back side of it. I do have a photo installation guide already available for this, so it may be quite some time before I do a video because I already have one option out there for instructions. Another part that I have available are these little guys. Ferrari F430s. The window switches are very prone to failure, and what happens are there are small little teeth on the sides of the window switch itself, and you'll have a day where you hit the switch too hard, or maybe a child's playing with it or something like that, and it breaks one of those teeth off, and unfortunately your only option for repair is to replace the entire switch assembly. So rather than doing that, especially because if you replace it with a new part, you're going to have the same failure again if somebody ever pushes on it too hard. So this is a permanent upgrade / repair for your window switches. Using the switch and seeing it from the outside, it will look factory, it will still illuminate, you'll have no issues as far as that goes. However, this will permanently repair a broken pivot point without having to replace the entire window switch. So I've got that available. That's a very popular one as well. Very similar to that, these tiny little ones here. I've got these are for Maserati, specifically the Gran Turismo. I'm honestly not sure if any others would use this repair part as well, but these are the teeth. It's a completely different design switch from the 430, so I had to design a different method of repair, but these are replacement tabs that will add the pivot points to a window switch on a Gran Turismo. So each tab replaces one pivot point, so one window switch, if it had both sides broken, would require two. If you had a driver's side window assembly and both switches are broken, the best bet is to get 4 of these or 2 packages of these to repair both switches. Next up, this is another new part. I just recently did this. I haven't sold one yet, other than to the original customer. So this is the auto button in an F430 early generation. So there are 2 different control panels, F1 control panels on the center console. The earliest being referred to as the Jaeger style. There are 2 individual buttons inside of the panel. The automatic button breaks. The automatic button does not exist any longer. You can't buy them new. Even finding a good used one is very hard, and buying a used one you risk the same failure. What happens on these is this tiny little corner right here that you can barely probably see in this packaging. That right there is a contact point inside the switch that commands the switch to when you push the button. The rest of this is pretty much an adapter for the switch to hold the auto button and make it visibly appealing, but the actual tab inside there is what presses the electrical portion of the switch. Well, it breaks off. Your only option currently, or before this part was available, was to upgrade from the Jaeger switch to the later style switch, which would cost you north of $3,000, probably close to $4,000. Instead of that, I made the part to repair that switch. This one is a pretty intricate switch to repair. I'll do my best to make a video the next time I see one. I would definitely recommend having a shop that is very comfortable with doing small repairs do this part. This part's very sensitive to install. But it is a replacement, and it will also come with dielectric grease because I highly recommend greasing the inside of the switch, and that will help prevent further failures in the future. Next up, we have these. These are shown as a pair. Or not as a pair, these are actually two separate repair parts. These do the same thing, but two different versions of a vehicle. So this is a Rolls-Royce Ghost and a Rolls-Royce Phantom navigation screen. Now, if you've ever owned a Phantom or a Ghost, an earlier generation Ghost, and you've ever had your kids stick their hand into the navigation screen as it's rotating, you may have found that it's failed. It doesn't even take that much, honestly. A car that is in a warm environment will cause the dust tray below the navigation screen to warp. When that happens, it will cause friction as the screen's rotating, and eventually it will strip the teeth off of the gear on the inside. You call Rolls-Royce, tell them that the screen won't flip anymore, they're going to sell you an entire navigation unit for about $4,000. Rather than that, I would pull the navigation unit out of the dash. It's quite tedious. However, you could take it out, tear it down, decide which gear that your car uses based on which generation of navigation it has. You can order the gear from me, change just the gear, repair the unit, and save yourself over $3,500. So I do have both versions of this gear available. Just have to figure out which one you got, which one's stripped. And then last but not least, this is a very simple thing. This is for the 430, 360s, 355s. Several Ferraris use it. The airbox lids, they have a very specially shaped flathead screw used to open up the engine air filter boxes. When doing so, if you try to use a flathead bit in a driver or something like that, you risk the flathead sliding out of the screw and it will gouge your airbox. Especially painful if you have something like a Scuderia with a carbon fiber airbox lid. So this is just a very simple bit that I made just to hopefully save you a lot of problems in the future. This will surround the screw while engaging it. One catch to this is produced more for you guys at home that are just going to take your air filters out once a year. And in doing so, I would use a handle with it, not an impact driver. As you can tell, it's a plastic sleeve. It honestly is not made for day-to-day shop use. I may have an option available in all steel eventually for use with impact drivers, but at this point in time, this is just for using a regular little quarter drive handle to open your airbox. It's 4 screws, it's not super time consuming, but this is also available on the website. I've got a lot of other ideas I'm working on, a lot of other things I'd like to make, and I'm always open to suggestions. I am specifically dealing with rare and exotic parts. There may be some import parts I'll make eventually, but at this point in time, the exotic market, as you can tell, has a slew of its own problems that need to be resolved, so I'm going to work on that first. Anyway, I appreciate your time. Sorry I made the video so lengthy. It's my first one, and I just wanted to make it worth it. So, comment below, shoot me a message, let me know what you need. Have a good night.